I see our good friend and board member, Elliot Weinstein from York.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody.
Oh, Heidi, you brought a friend. Who's your friend?
I did. I brought for show and tell. I brought William.
Oh, wonderful.
Everybody.
Captain Picard. It's Captain Picard.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Captain Kirk.
Yes,
It's a pleasure to see everybody. Happy to be here. Nice to be here with Israel and Joe, or as we call them, the Chief Rabbi and the Consul General.
Wonderful, wonderful.
We're going to switch places.
From
A lot
Atlanta,
easier.
Cheryl, I'm so glad you're with us. And
It's fair.
Rabbi Jonathan Rosenbaum, formerly president of Gratz College. Amazing, wonderful people here. And I'll tell you what, Carol Brumer, my good friend from Hebrew University, I'm going to mention that in my opening comments of my connection. But it's 7:31, so let me get us officially started. I am so excited to have so many wonderful friends here on a special opportunity for us to share our love for Israel together. Let me welcome you to our 5th AFKMC Zoom event since the start of COVID-19. And I lost my Zoom. My job is to set the tone and in mixing Jewish metaphors to prepare the high holiday Seder table of tonight's discussion. For those who may not know me, which I'm not too sure who doesn't, my name is Lou Balcher, and I'm National Director of American Friends of Kaplan Medical Center, responsible for getting great American leaders together to build our connection to Israel and to support one of Israel's largest and most strategic national health centers located in Rehovot, Israel, that America is still getting to know. My dual purpose is combining the needs for building our connection to Israel with what I constantly say is the most critical need for the American Jewish community, which is to identify and engage post-college age young adults, to get them more comfortable with their roles as future leaders of our Jewish and Israel support community. This I do with a nonprofit organization that was founded nearly 35 years ago. Think of that, 35 years in the Jewish organizational life. YGLC Young Jewish Leadership Concepts was co-founded with my wife Jocelyn, who I call my Jewish Egyptian princess of more than 34 years. And just as a side note, last November 2019, my son David and I met with Tal Brody in Tel Aviv. And the encounter made me realize that I have to add, when saying my bride, the words of 34 years, or people might think I've remarried, which Tal didn't quite realize. I'll shortly introduce our AFKMC national leaders, our other VIPs, and our honored guest speakers. The format will be an Israel update from the Honorable Israel Nitzan, Consul General of Israel, New York. We'll have a short overview of Rosh Hashanah in a COVID-19 world from Rabbi Joe Potasnik, Executive VP of the New York Board of Rabbis, also an AFKMC National Board leader, and what I believe is America's rabbi, because from 9/11, which we'll celebrate in a few days, he was the front and center for the New York community and the Jewish community and what happened at 9/11 and giving us all sustenance. And we need to remember that 19 years ago, 9/11 was the last paradigm shift in our culture since our current COVID-19 experience. We'll have short reports from esteemed rabbis from around the country, and I'm emphasizing short reports, and we'll hear of the amazing shul networking activity of Synagogue Connect. Then we'll spend a few minutes listening to YGLC's YPs, young professionals, about the need for adult shul and organizational community to engage young professionals, and a new project to engage YPs at the shul level. First, I have a few opening comments on our gathering. Well, we're on the cusp of Rosh Hashanah, a sweet, introspective, and recovering COVID-19 New Year to you all. I need to talk about the centrality of Israel. Being Jewish means that we're involved in our story. We grapple with our leadership and our understanding of who we are. And we honor our 4,000-year history centrally connected to Israel and leaders like King David, who united our people in Jerusalem 3,000 years ago. Okay. Allow me to give special acknowledgments to our AFKMC board and special guests, and of course to our AFKMC team, Scott, who's our web whiz here, Jill, our administrative coordinator, Steve Goldflam, our treasurer, Lori, Carol, and Jocelyn, who I already mentioned. Our special board members, who I know are here, and we have 24 board members around the country, and most of them are represented here. Albert Algazi, Jerome Baxley, Heidi Kreiser-Deroff, who brought her special friend Bill, William Franklin, Steve Friedman, our national chair, Rabbi Eric Greenberg, Rabbi Joshua Grunberg, Rabbi Scott Hoffman. Seems to be a few rabbis on our national board. Lana Pinkinson, good friend and supporter, and one of our prime supporters, Rabbi Joe Potasnik, who will be speaking shortly. Yossi Puder, friend for 40 years in Philadelphia. Rabbi Jonathan Rosenbaum, former president of Gratz College. Jacob Siegel, who heads up the South California Israel Friendship League in Los Angeles. Elliot Weinstein from the York Jewish community, who's formerly and may soon be again on the board of the Penn State and does other things for national organizations. Linda Simon, our psychology wonder, who's a board member. And that's our board members. A few other key people I do need to acknowledge because they're special, wonderful people. Besides our speakers, Josh and Sophia, we have Cheryl Turchinsky, heads up Atlanta Israel Coalition, and we have Alicia Post, a close friend who's the wheels behind the American Zionist movement. And I must say, she was a YGLC administrative coordinator or outreach coordinator in New York before she had these some of these other positions. So with all these wonderful introductions, and all of you are phenomenal, wonderful people, we're so excited to have you together. So Steve Friedman, do we have Steve handy? Okay. So I'll tell you, since I'm going to go back to my days as a former director of academic affairs for the Israeli consulate in Philadelphia for 9 years. And when I came to New York, and it was actually at the passing of the former director of American Israel Friendship League. And the mind blocks at times when there's important people there. I met Israel Nitzan, and I could see the warmth and humanity of this representative from Israel, and I knew we were in good shape. And now that the wonderful Danny Dayan went back to Israel, Israel Nitzan is taking the key role of guiding America from New York for Israel. And a personal connection, I know he served in Egypt, and my wife was born in Cairo, Egypt. So with that, Israel Nitzan, let me hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Lou, for this very kind of introduction, and actually for inviting me again, once again, to participate in your virtual event. Your work, your support for the state of Israel, and actually bringing the Israeli story to our friends here in the United States is invaluable. It's always a true pleasure joining you, and I joined your first Zoom event on April 6th. The title was Israel's Response to the Coronavirus, and I'm happy, of course, I'm happy to do it, to be here and joining you again this evening. You know, you asked me to give an Israel update on COVID-19. I'm afraid that I do not have good news since Israel is facing a dramatic new spike in infection rates. Only today there was a new spike again, about 3,000 new cases, and where the state and the government are trying to find ways in which we can actually stop this trend and momentum in the spike, and find the right ways to lower the curve and flatten the curve. And of course, we all need to work together, closely together in combating COVID-19. For us at the Consul, at least in the last several months, we hosted our main effort was to bring Israeli mainly government agencies and local government agencies to have an engagement, a direct engagement. So we hosted several conference calls on Zoom between Israeli government agencies and American agencies in which they could share best practices in fighting COVID-19. We had discussions on exit strategies with local governments, state level. We actually shared some of the Israeli technology, for example, the Hamagen app that voluntarily monitor and trace potential infections. So we shared this technology with our friends here in the United States, and we actually had discussions also on ways to address trauma and post-trauma among first responders. We hosted several calls with the Israel Trauma Coalition, with different agencies, state level, Department of Health officials, and many, many more. And of course, the idea is also to address the needs of diverse communities. So we engage with diverse communities. There's a very strong emphasis today on the African American community. And the idea is to find the ways to address their needs and to bring the Israeli solutions and the know-how also to the communities here. We share information, but in many cases we also learn from our American friends, and we encourage Israeli startups to work with American companies in innovating new technologies in order to fight this phenomena. At the same time, we've been working with Jewish federations. I think that this is, if you're asking me what should the state of Israel do today when there's a global pandemic, is basically to reach out and to address the needs of Jewish communities abroad. We reached out to all federations. We have direct engagement with all the federations and basically offered some help, either professional or connecting Israeli nonprofits to their communities. There's another dimension that we should talk about, and unfortunately we had to be very active about it, which is the second pandemic today, anti-Semitism. We at the consulate and of course in the United States speak up and call out anti-Semitism and stand up for our sisters and brothers around the world, and especially here in the United States. We may not have the authority to act here, but of course we believe that we have, as the representatives of the State of Israel, we have the historic and moral responsibility to guarantee and to support the well-being of our family around the world. So in view of all these challenges, what you're doing here, Lou, is bringing us all together as one family to discuss our challenges, to discuss the opportunities, to find ways in which we can actually help each other, is what needs to be done. And I thank you for that. I want to add one more thing, which is, it's been a difficult year for all of us, and we're all looking for good news, and for a change, good news are coming actually from the Middle East. With the peace agreement between Israel and the United Arab Emirates, sponsored by the United States, we were very encouraged to see that it also gained a very vast bipartisan support in the American political system, and it's a source of great hope, I think, that for all of us right before Rosh Hashanah. Since then, we had another, some more good news during the weekend with the establishment of relations with Kosovo, with the transfer of more embassies to Jerusalem. This is a great development, and it gives us great hope for the future and great hope for peace in the Middle East. And I think that in many ways, the peace agreement between Israel and the United Arab Emirates, it has actually established a visionary future of peace and prosperity in the Middle East, and this is what we all need. You mentioned my background as a diplomat serving in Cairo, also experiencing the Arab Spring. Our region was not in the best shape in the last decade. And in many ways it gives us great hope. And we have to say that Israel and the UAE have actually given priority to the well-being of their own citizens. This is an exception in our region, unfortunately, and it's also, we believe that it should, we hope that it will serve as the first step to peace in our region, including with our Palestinian neighbors. So one more thing that I would like to say is that this agreement also represent, the Abraham Accords. They represent emerging voices from the region that are choosing peace, direct engagement, and cooperation. We all see them on social media. The direct engagement and the voices of happiness that we hear from people in the UAE is a source of great hope. It's also a source of great hope for those who are looking for direct engagement and cooperation against bigotry, fear, and hatred. We do not forget that there are I think that in many ways the agreements draw a clear line between the camp of peace in the region, in which we have Israel, of course, the UAE, moderate Sunni Arab countries, against the other camp, the camp of war and instability led by Iran. And we should not forget it, and we should continue in our pressure on the Iranian regime. So in many ways, we should also encourage those voices. So allow me, first of all, to wish you all a happy, healthy new year. And I do hope that this year it will be a year of peace, of cooperation, the end of COVID, and that will allow us, and that in a year in which we will all continue to face the challenges together as one family. And again, I thank you, Lou, for the opportunity to be here with you, and thank you very much, and Shana Tova to all of you. Thank you.
Israel, thank you so much. And I think what you point to is we know we're all experiencing this COVID-19 as one paradigm shift that we're all experiencing. But what you've talked to us about, the rainbow of what's happening with United Arab Emirates and opening up, hopefully, a floodgates of new relationships in the Middle East, is another paradigm shift that I think we need to stop and appreciate what is going on. So thank you so much for that, and the dedication you have for Israel, as every diplomat supplants his family, lives in a foreign country for years, and just devotes your life to it. So thank you for all the work that you do. At this point, if we can bring in our wonderful board member from New York, Rabbi Joe Potasnik, and as I introduced before, let me see, where do we have you, Rabbi? There we go. I'm putting you on my speaker view here. Oh, sorry. Okay, so I've asked Rabbi Joe to give us an overview of what this, what Rosh Hashanah in a COVID-19 world looks like, and there we go, and to give us a little bit of his amazing experience, but also, as I said before, we are so appreciative of your role in New York and for the American Jewish community, because it was a couple days and it will be 19 years since 9/11, and you made your mark as the pillar that kept us together for that. So we honor and thank you for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lou, for your kind words. Firstly, Lou, I just want to say you are the most flattering person I've ever met in my entire life. You always have a kind word to say about everyone. I'm trying to find the one person you don't like, because whenever I've been with you, it's always that effusive praise for everyone who's privileged to be in your presence. Interestingly, Lou, the word ahava and the word echad, ahava means love and echad means one, both have the same numerical value. And I think you remind us that where you have love for people, as you do, you bring people together. There is that oneness of spirit. So you just continue doing what you're doing, because all of us are the beneficiaries of your Gutzkeit, of your kindness. Consul General Nitzan, I want to thank you for creating all the new chief rabbi positions that are going to be coming up. We have Bahrain, Sudan, the entire Gulf. The only problem is when Yehuda Sarna was named chief rabbi of the UAE, we got calls to the board of rabbis where people say, well, why was he named and not me? So it creates a little bit of dissension, but we welcome these new opportunities. And let me also say it's good to see a number of friends of mine on the board on this call. I just want to recognize in particular Sophia Weinstein. She's a young member of the consulate. She joined recently. She was hired recently. I bat mitzvahed her. She grew up in my synagogue, and to see someone who has grown over the years with her love and loyalty to the state of Israel is something that gives me great psychic income. So, Sophia, thank you for all that you do and will continue to do for our people. Let me say to all of you that years ago, I learned as a parent that you always have to have a plan B. That plan A sometimes doesn't work out. I remember I bought these front row seats for my son. Peter Pan was on Broadway, and looked forward to him enjoying it. He was then about 7 years old, and the day arrives for the presentation, and what happens? He comes down with the flu. So immediately had to think of what's plan B going to be, and we ended up staying home and watching a movie. And I use that example because this is the year when, with Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, with all of the Jewish holy days, we need to have a plan B. I think it's interesting that when you look at the Talmud begins on page 2. There's no page 1 in the Talmud. And maybe that's another reminder that sometimes page 1 is taken away from you. You got to learn how to begin on page 2. So I've learned the following during this period. Firstly, someone said that the Jewish star is a very fitting symbol for the Jewish people, because you have two triangles going in opposite directions. And I think sometimes that becomes the condition of our people. We're having these opposing camps. But I have to say, and I speak, for, I think, the rabbis in New York, and I'm sure this is true around the country, I have never seen such a close connection amongst the rabbis of all the different denominations. We've had many Zoom calls with rabbis offering their innovative suggestions, what they're doing that's going to be a little bit different, whether they're live streaming or they're having outdoor or indoor limited services, but they're talking to one another and saying, what can we learn from each other? On the east side of New York, beginning lower Manhattan, going all the way uptown, at 4 o'clock on Sunday, you're going to have rabbis and some members of the congregation sounding the shofar all at the same time. And the same thing is true on the west side. And in Brooklyn, talking to Rabbi Timona, Rachel Timona, and she's going to have the shofar sounding on the roof. We had fiddler on the roof. Now we're going to have shofar sounding on the roof tops of a number of congregations in Brooklyn. Again, certain time, synchronized in the community. So I think this is a moment, yes, of pain, but it's also a moment when we're privileged to see the kind of cooperation that we are witnessing. As a matter of fact, the Rabbi Jeremy Wiederhorn, who is in Westport, Connecticut, happens to be the president of the Board of Rabbis, told me that he's doing something interesting this year. They're going to live stream, but in sports now you have these cutouts of these pictures of people in the stands. He's doing that with members of his congregation. He's having pictures of congregants in the seats so that when he makes the presentation, you're going to see all of the faces of the congregants who normally would be seated there. I want to tell you a moving story. I was talking to a grandfather who was in an assisted living facility, and his grandchild couldn't come inside, but he stood outside. Grandchild about 10, 11 years old, and the grandfather was holding up Hebrew letters, and underneath, the phonetic spelling of the letter. And he said to me, the reason I did that was I didn't want my grandchild to just think of this old person in a assisted living facility. I wanted him to remember me teaching him Hebrew, even when I was there. So again, you find that this period inspires people to do things that are a little bit different, to go to plan B instead of plan A. I was telling members of the Board of Rabbis, and I see Eric Greenberg, although he's sitting in the dark there. I wonder, it must be in a witness protection program. But Eric Greenberg was on the call, and I said, if you look at the machzor of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, Unatan Tokiv, it says, charity and prayer and repentance diminish the severe decree, that if you engage in those three things, it lessens the pain of the period. And if you look at the letters charity, prayer, and repentance, that's CPR. And I think that has been what we've done. We've kept alive. We've kept, connected. Even though people are socially distant, they're in so different places, we have tried to keep community together. So I think that we can really look at this period, yes, as a time of pain, but also as a time of privilege. And let me just leave you with this thought. Nobody really knows where Mount Sinai is located. We have all these theories, but nobody really knows where Mount Sinai is. Everybody knows where Mount Moriah is located because that is the site of the temple, or where the temple stood. Isn't that a lesson for all of us? That ultimately what we remember is that which we build together. And I hope as we go through this Rosh Hashanah Plan B, that all of us will look at it and say, we were very, very fortunate to build a closeness where Jews and Jews stood together, not against each other, but stood together as one people, like Lou, with ahava and echad, with love and also with oneness. Thank you.
Yasher koach, yasher koach, yasher koach. So we're going to turn now. Thank you so much for those beautiful words, Rabbi Joe. You've given us inspiration to start with, and now let's hear some details of some of the things that are going around the world, around America, in synagogues. And I was so privileged to meet Rabbi Jan Salzman from Ruach HaMakom in Burlington, Vermont, and she has a report of what they're doing up in the Vermont area. So take it away, Rabbi Jan.
Good evening, my friends. I am personally and professionally perhaps very excited about this deconstruction of performative Judaism, where we expect that you go to a place, you sit down, and you have somebody else do it for you. We are at a time when we're asking our congregants to do it themselves, to make the high holidays work for them without being able to go into a room and be inspired by all the just the physicality of 3 dimensions, right? So what I have done, I've done 2 things here at Ruach HaMakom, which is an affiliated Jewish renewal community. The first is I've completely deconstructed the morning services. And for those of you who are familiar with the morning service, usually you have shacharit, and we're not going to do hardly any of that. We're going to go right into the Musaf and really invite people into that experience the Torah portion will be woven throughout the whole service. There will not be a separate Torah portion. The goal is to not run a Zoom for more than 90 minutes, right? And that's how we're doing Rosh Hashanah morning and Yom Kippur morning as well. I've put together a self-guided walk that will be put in a small woods at the Rock Point Retreat Center that is owned by the Episcopal Church on the shores of Lake Champlain. And it will be 13 stations based on Musar. And so we made beautiful signs, and there'll be a walk, self-guided walk, and people will be invited to engage in that walk at any time during the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah and again on Yom Kippur. People coming out by themselves and taking a journey through the foundational principles of the way that we aspire to be in this world, which I think is the foundation of Teshuvah. The other thing that I'm so blessed to do is I'm working with a group of 4 other rabbis, Cheryl Gilbert and Shachar Orenstein of Montreal got a grant to organize some alternative programming. And so I'm working with Cheryl and Shachar and also Jeremy Parnes of Regina, Saskatchewan, and Mark Novak of Washington, D.C. All of us went through the Aleph seminary together, and we take great delight in playing with each other. And so we have put together about 4 Elul programmings, one of which is tomorrow night. And then we're doing as a group, Slichot, we're doing second day Rosh Hashanah, and then each of us are also working with our own home community. So it's this incredible combination of the gift of COVID, and I call it COVID instead of COVID. You guys get that. So I call the gift of COVID is that our boundaries have dissolved, and we can now go to anything that's happening around the planet that will feed and inform our journey through the high holidays. And so this is great. I get to work with my colleagues who are spread out over 2,000 miles of distance, creating programming that hopefully will be innovative and engaging. I get to work with my own community in, again, deconstructing this performative model of Judaism, really encouraging people to bring the journey, the work, the good work of the high holidays deep within them own selves. And like how do you set up a sacred place in your home? You know, how big of a screen do you need to look at, engage with while you are participating in Zoom? How do you light a candle, et cetera, et cetera. So these things are very exciting, I find. Reb Zalman always used to say that Judaism, since the World War II, has been a big laboratory. And we are constantly curious about what is it that our Jews want, you know? What do people really want? And having that freedom and that actual obligation to reconstruct, and I don't mean the Reconstructionist movement, but to reconstruct what is Judaism now going forward? What do our young people want? And what is the format? So I'll end my remarks there, and I certainly invite questions and comments.
Rabbi Jen, it's wonderful, your creativity, your knowledge, and we have so many knowledgeable experts in Jewish community. So I'm going to ask to, and pardon me for doing this, but if we can keep the Rabbi Roundtable and possibly keep it short for quick, and then hopefully we'll have time afterwards for more discussion. Rabbi Jen, I understand, was part of a national effort from the Center for Rabbinic Innovations of Hillel International. She was brought to us through connections with Rabbi Reish Weiss in Philadelphia and Yardley, Pennsylvania, who also brought us Rabbi Neil Blumoff from Agudas Achim in Austin, Texas. We're looking forward to your innovation talk, short talk. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lou. I'm really happy to be here, and it's nice to see some friends as well. Rabbi Potasnik, thank you for your leadership. Rabbi Jan Salzman, thank you. And it's really great to be with a dear friend, Rabbi Scott Hoffman, with whom he married me and my wife 27 years ago in New Orleans. So
wonderful.
It was really lovely. So it's nice to be acquainted My synagogue, Agudas Achim, is a conservative affiliated synagogue with 650 family units and growing. We prepared for this back in June and July with a series of parlor meetings, taking full advantage of the potentials of our campus and community. We're on 40 acres called the Dell Jewish Community Campus. So we're doing a blend of services, both Zoom and live stream, live services and pre-recorded. And we're utilizing Elul very intentionally as a staging ground for holiness. Our signature programs are pastoral touchpoints, utilizing some of the medical team in our community to hold space for people who are grieving or isolated. We have Elul teach-ins and community conversations that I've put together, amplifying the voices in the Black community and people of color. We just did something very important on Labor Day just yesterday. And in addition, we have various playlists that people can play off of Spotify on our website. We're mobilizing specific programs from other constituencies, whether it's brotherhood or sisterhood, etc. We have a really wonderful kosher kitchen that's industrial, and we're offering High Holy Day meals to go, open to the entire community. We've assembled High Holy Day kits, similar to what Rabbi Salzman was speaking about, promoting at-home activities for families with children 18 or younger. Our services specifically, we're having a lending library where we're lending out all our machzorim, our prayer books for people, so we don't screen share, and that's a whole nother conversation. I just don't think it adds to the holiness of time. We have 3 in-person events here in Austin, Texas. We're having a shofar picnic on Rosh Hashanah Day 2, early morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, for people to bring their breakfast and hang out. For Kol Nidre, we're doing a big tailgate on our campus for people to bring their meals, and then we're having a huge drive-in where people can do that. Of course, all that is Zoomed as well. And for Ne'ilah, the very last service, we have a walk-through sanctuary, like a hakafa, which is a way where people can open and put themselves in front of the ark. Just to conclude, we have various Zoom channels that are happening simultaneously. The sanctuary service, which I'm doing complete service, live service. In addition, we have alternative services, including what we're calling the hallway service, where people can schmooze in rooms and breakout rooms of those. It's very important for people who haven't seen each other in 6 months. For young adults, I know that's a very important concern for this evening. We're offering during the day meditation, yoga, intimate text study, and it's very important as well. And we've also, for another time, but transformed our Kol Nidre appeal, which is much more focused and disciplined as we come together at Agudas Achim, which we call Unshakable CAA. So thank you for the opportunity to share, and appreciate the wisdom and the guidance of this community as well. Be well, and Shana Tova U'Metuka.
Shana Tova. Thank you so much, Rabbi Neil. And I will go to Rabbi Scott Hoffman next, but first, so I don't embarrass myself too much, I don't know if I mentioned our wonderful board member from New York, Addie Hamwitz, who has been a lifesaver for me with things I'm going through right now. Amy Westphal from Friends of Israel Ministries, a very close friend. The reason that I got connected to the American Friends of Catholic Medical Center. And of course, I'm so honored to have Andy Borens, who's on this call, former top exec at AEPI. Now that he's doing the foundation, he does critical work as well, but we're talking about perhaps the next program focusing the secret work, the wonderful work that AEPI does on America's campuses. So with that, I want to go to Scott Hoffman to talk with the guy you married.
Thank you, Lou. First of all, thank you for all the work you do, which is extraordinary. And great to see my colleagues, Rabbi Potasnik, Rabbi Blumoff. I just was scared when you said it was already 27 years, but I knew it's about that, actually. Let me keep it very short for you. You know, we're a congregation of about 270, 80 families, something like that. And we've gone all back and forth with COVID. Zoom has been extraordinary for us, and we're utilizing it pretty extensively for the holidays. But it's taught a few lessons to me on Zoom that I think will last. And I want to share just some of them. Number one, people love informality. And I've used Zoom to dial back a lot of the synagogue's formality. So one of the things that has informed my preaching for the last, I don't know, 6 months or so, more than that, but certainly the last 6 months, I sit in a chair, I don't stand up, and I look at that computer screen and I just talk to the people, and they like it a lot better. And I'm going to do that. So that's certainly a lesson. And number two, we rabbis say we listen to our lay people. Some days I think we do better than others. This time we're really listening because we don't know the answer either. We don't know either. We don't even pretend to have the answers. No amount of experience in this field or, number of Talmud pages you learned is going to answer this question. So we listen to our lay people better. I think I've learned to listen a lot better and not think I know everything. I never did think that, but, less so. And number three, we've shortened our services and made them more streamlined out of absolute necessity, because people tell us, our best members, I can't sit that long. The younger ones don't have the patience, and the older ones don't have the stamina. And my kids are kind of, working their way into the first group in their 20s, and my father's already in a second group, and he's a member of the synagogue. So we've probably entered a time when we're going to see a lot shorter, more streamlined services, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It'll all be good. So being a little innovative, being a better listener, getting to the point faster, all good things for the new year, Lou, right?
Wonderful. Rabbi Scott, thank you so much. And since we're going from connection to connection, I'm going to Rabbi Grunberg next, but first I have to say, I acknowledge Amy Wessel, but I did not yet acknowledge one of my greatest teachers is Bill Sutter from American Friends of from Friends of Israel Ministries, who introduced me to American Friends of Catholic Medical Center. And Bill, with love, I appreciate every time we talk and all the guidance that you give me. And with that, I'll go to your neighbor, your former neighbor, Rabbi Josh Grunberg.
Thanks, Lou. First of all, such a wonderful pleasure to be with everybody tonight. I think in this crazy time, I always love to begin any remarks with Hakarat HaTov. Lou, you're an amazing guy, Lou. You give and give and give in an incredible way. And those of us who have been fortunate enough to be in a community where you give, Lou, well, we're fortunate enough. So it's a pleasure to be here for you, Lou, and to support all of the incredible work that you do.
That we do. You're a board member.
that we do, but you're incredible, Lou. It's a pleasure to be here, especially among some wonderful colleagues and friends. It's a crazy time. I'm a little jealous of some of you who are in parts maybe doing a little bit better with the coronavirus than we're doing down here in the greater Baltimore area. But, I heard my colleagues, Neil Blumoff and Scott Hoffman, talking about some of the things they're doing. I think I just echo some of the things that they said. We're desperately trying to engage with people as much as we can in this time. It's a great irony of this is that it's harder for us to engage. We don't have the in-person touch, and yet our engagement with our people is more vital and more critical than it's ever been. And so like all of the rabbis and all of the communities, we're trying to remain engaged in every possible way they can, but not just engaged with our communities, but engaged with the world around us, Lou. And so that's why it's special to have an evening like this, because as much as we might be tempted during a challenging time to only focus inward, the hallmark, the tradition of Jewish communities during times like this has been our ability to focus inward and outward at the same time, and in so doing to really be a shining example for the world around us. So it's a wonderful thing to be here with you this evening, and I hope and pray that the new year for all of us is one of health and safety, a wonderful vaccine, and being able to be together in person sometime very soon.
Thank you, Rob, Josh. you've been a special friend to me, and I've always enjoyed our talks together and always look forward to more. Okay, let's see. Do we have Rabbi Gabai on the phone or something I may not see? Okay, if so, let me know or let Scott know and we'll bring you in later. One of my other great teachers, Rabbi Jonathan Rosenbaum, who I worked under at Gratz College a generation ago when he was president of Gratz College. I'm so happy to have your guidance on our board, American Friends of Catholic Medical Center. And if you could just give us some short comments of your perceptions of COVID-19, Rosh Hashanah, and then we can move on to our young professionals part.
Lou, thank you so much for what you do. You, as so many of others have said, you personify the ideals of Jewish life and Jewish living, and I know that each of us sees you as an emblem to be emulated by us all. This time of year is always one for rabbis of great preparation and immersion, a time of extraordinary holiness and commitment. But it is different, obviously, to all of us this year. And I can say that at Gratz, where I served as president for many years and now emeritus, we have the opportunity to have already built the idea of connecting electronically so that we, because our courses have for many years been primarily online, we have both master's and doctoral programs with students around the world and with faculty around the world. So in a certain sense, the technology is not new, but the opportunities are. This virus is unique in all our lives and indeed in modern history. And each of us, I think, has had an opportunity to think about how she or he might benefit others from the circumstances in which we are. Perhaps the greatest opportunity is, as you've heard from my colleagues so eloquently, the chance to connect in unique and original ways with people who are coming to services in a format that is different. Some of us have not been able to attend Shabbat services, for example, because of the virus on the one hand, and have not participated electronically for issues of Shmirat Shabbat. But the chance to connect during the week and during Yemei Chol, the chance to have an opportunity to see others, as we are doing now, in a kind of pictorial representation, and to see each person thinking about her or his own responsibilities is both unique as a challenge, but also as an opportunity. It seems to me that as we approach Yom Kippur as a kind of ultimate climax, of course, to our days of awe, as we have entered Elul, and as we move from there to Slichot and Rosh Hashanah, and ultimately to the conclusions, it is a chance for us to really seek tshuva from others, and perhaps to connect in these electronic ways in circumstances that we can't normally do when we're face to face. This is our challenge, but also our opportunity. What you have done, Lou, and what so many others have done in this group to advance Jewish life, Jewish learning, and to build the foundation of coming generations is an example on which each of us can build. It's important to say what we've done wrong to others, but also to dedicate ourselves to doing right. These are challenging days, unique even for people like me who are old and gray. And I must say that with your inspiration, with your example and exemplary deeds, and indeed with the commitments and deeds of all whom we've heard tonight, but also everyone here and many who affiliate with the ideals that each of us represent, there is a chance to change the world for the better, even in ways that we had not considered. Young people participating from afar who had never thought that it was important to do so were sitting in dorm rooms or at home and taking courses, and now are involved Jewishly in ways they hadn't considered. They're connecting with earlier generations, their parents and their grandparents especially, and seeing them for the first time in some cases as committed in ways that they had not known. Judaism represents for all of us this opportunity, and Jewish life and living in the fullest sense is for each of us to build not only for ourselves, but for those people who are sitting in classrooms, little or older, and who, God willing, will represent the foundation of the future for all of us and for those not yet born. So I want to thank you for what you've done, but I want to thank everyone who is here, because each person is deeply committed to ideals, not only of Israel, but of Jewish life, of all ha-mitzvot, the yoke of the mitzvot, which is ironically a source of constant joy despite the phrase. I want to wish everyone tiva v'chatima tova, and I want to thank you, Lou, for the privilege of speaking as well among this august and committed group.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. And it is just amazing to have so many amazing scholars all coming together in this one Zoom. Two things I need to do before I introduce our rabbi, important friends from Synagogue Connect. I have to mention Rabbi Seth Frisch, who perhaps on a future Zoom, we can hear his story of personally guiding Ethiopian Jews to Israel, but that'll be for a future time. And I have to mention my connection and how I got connected to Synagogue Connect, which is an amazing story. And I need to tell you that a word about future leadership, what this is all about. Often I tell friends that I'm in the time warp. Since arriving at Hebrew University in Jerusalem in the summer of 1976 for a Hillel leadership training program, only weeks before the miracle at Entebbe. The YPs, young professionals you will hear from after Synagogue Connect, will tell you that we are friends, that I think of them and treat them as colleagues, and in my mind, we are peers. I told you I have a time warp. We must understand that each day that we are not engaging these young adults in our communal plan, we are losing them. Through the 20 national organizations have signed up with AFKMC's Heart and Soul Project to outreach to young professionals through the YGLC program and method, we also need all of your partnerships as well. And I'm happy to explore this 35-year YGLC project more with any and all who want to discuss solutions to engaging YPs in our Jewish community. And I say that as an introduction because 4 years ago, I think it was, that I was put in touch by Rabbi Joe Potasnik with Rabbi Ron Brown, who is the initiator, the spark plug, who started this amazing concept of getting over 1,000 synagogues in America to agree on one thing: we shouldn't have to have young adults pay to go to high holiday services. Eric Greenberg was one of the key rabbis who helped him. The connection with AEPI is so solid, what makes them so successful. So I want to acknowledge Rabbi Ron Brown and Rabbi Eric Greenberg. If you can just enlighten us a little bit more about Synagogue Connect, then we'll get to our young professionals and hopefully have time before our hour is out. Rabbi Eric.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you. I'm listening to everyone, and the one word that comes to me is inspired. Everyone tonight is inspiring. Lou, I'll echo what everyone else has said. You are inspiring in what you're doing, and we thank you so much. All the rabbis who spoke tonight, especially my friend and mentor, Rabbi Potasnik, Rabbi Brown, who hopefully is on. I'd love to have him say a couple of words as well. So two things. Synagogue Connect is the vision of Rabbi Brown, Rabbi Charles Klein. They saw the need for, as you said so articulately, Lou, they saw the need to reconnect, or for the first time connect young people to their synagogue life, whether they're away at college, whether they're young professionals or in graduate school. They're in a new place, they don't know where to go. This is an amazing concept. For those who don't know, I I strongly encourage everyone to go to the Synagogue Connect database. Rabbi Brown, if he's on, wave your hand. Did all this hard work of actually building a network of over 1,000 synagogues of all denominations who have agreed with this vision. We will allow and encourage young people to come to high holiday services gratis, for free. In the past, as you know, that was in person. This year has been a particular challenge. Each synagogue of every denomination is doing, basically recreating their world on the fly. That's what they're doing. Rabbi Potasnik has done some great Zoom webinars the last few weeks where we're hearing rabbis, and tonight as well, they're recreating things. Which prayers to eliminate, what to do on Slichot. I just saw an email right before I came on. The shofar, how do we blow it? Do we put a coffee filter on? Do we put a mask on it? It's just, who would have ever thought this, 6 months ago? So Synagogue Connect is a valuable database and tool for both. Oh, I just saw that it looks like Rabbi Brown is on. Rabbi Brown, would you want to talk for a couple of minutes about?
Just for a moment, introduce yourself and tell us.
Myself or Rabbi Brown?
Where is he? I'm looking for him.
I'm looking for him too.
If you go to participants and you type the name in, you could see it looks like Ron is on by phone.
So while you're doing that, I'll just continue and say.
Oh, here we go.
You got him?
He's muted.
He's muted. Oh, well, that's.
Well, I'm very conscious of time. You've given us Rabbi Ron Brown.
Star six.
Okay, real quick. We thank you for all the work you've done to bring Jewish shuls together. A word from you.
First of all, I want to say hello to Scott. Good to see you after a couple of years out there. Synagogue Connect, in a nutshell, is basically the Jewish network, and hopefully it will be the next new thing of Jewish networks. My colleague Rabbi Klein referred to it as the global passport. We offer young people, especially this year, the ability to go to some 31 countries to stop into a service that they want to see what it's like in London or Budapest or any place around, as well as the synagogue that might be around the corner. We have some phenomenal partners. You mentioned API. API was the start for us, as well as API and Kahal. We also have Masa, JNF, Hadassah, AZM, Jewish Agency, and it goes on. Just about every major Jewish organization is supporting us. But even beyond that, this year, what we're taking in is all the Jewish social networks, dating services, anything else where anybody Jewish is possibly found in the world, we're looking for them. But it's not only from the top down, it's also from the bottom up. What we have is we've reached out to all the JCCs in North America, different federations, the grassroots. So we hear the stories of what is happening in Jewish communities around the world. I was thinking when I saw, Lou, the list of all the rabbis that you're going to have, I thought of a rabbinic text in Brachot. It says, "V'ani esetchem chativa achat ba'olam," that I will make you, the Jewish people, one unit. And that's basically what we're trying to do, to bring everybody together. Lou, we've been together for quite a few years, and I have a great respect for what you do and what you've accomplished. About 2 or 3 years ago, I told you, our job at Synagogue Connect is to bring young people into the door, and your job is to want them to stay, to continue and to be there.
Wonderful. I'm so glad you shared that with everyone else, because that's the guiding light that you've given me. You bring them in the door, and then we take them and give them the leadership to do that. So I'm very aware of time. I'm going to ask everyone to stay with us for another 10 minutes because we need to hear from our young professionals. And with that, I want to introduce an amazing young woman who, out of college, took this tremendous job as Director of Academic Affairs for the Israeli Consulate in New York, who's become a close friend and colleague and peer of mine. Sophia, please take the floor.
Lou, thank you so much for your kind words. It's such an honor to be part of YJLC and to be here tonight and to see all of the amazing familiar faces, including Rabbi Potasnik, who indeed did bat mitzvah me and continues to be a role model. I remember reaching out to Lou on my first week at the consulate, and ever since he's been such an incredible mentor. His supportive and friendly character is so contagious, and his willingness to help people is nothing short of astounding, as everyone here has already stated already. I wanted to speak a little bit about the origins and inspiration of YJLC, which continues to engage young professionals through regional programming, which is now on Zoom, and the two big events a year, including the rafting and skiing trip in the Poconos, which I'm sure a lot of you have been on or heard stories about. Great times. I am not had the honor of one yet because of COVID, but I'm sure I will in the future. Very excited for that. YJLC was founded in 1986, I believe, by Lou and his wife, and it helps those who have graduated from college and either have had a strong experience with Judaism or feel alienated from Judaism come together after leaving their community when they were in college, and it really helps them feel supported. It's truly a home away from home in which everyone could connect, learn, and really feel proud to be Jewish, which is incredibly important as a young person, because there are more and more people that feel isolated from it, and to be able to come together with Lou as the leader is such an incredible journey and really inspiring. A few recent events we conducted is a Zoom with comedian Benji Levitt, a Zoom with rabbis Ron Brown and Eric Greenberg, who I believe are on here, and a conference call with Sarah Weiss Maudi, Israel's top legal advisor at the Permanent Mission of Israel to the UN. Those are just a few of the recent events we did, and we're excited to continue growing our young professional community. So thank you so much again, Lou, for holding this and for having this tonight, and I hope everyone continues to stay safe despite COVID.
Sophia, thank you so much. And as everyone else on the Zoom can see, our future is secured because Sophia is involved and Josh is involved and other young professionals that we're reaching out to and giving the opportunity to move into the roles of leadership. So with that, let me go to Josh. And Josh, if you can share some of your stories. There you are.
Sure. Thank you, Lou. So I'm just going to talk a little bit more about YJLC and a project that we're working on. But in today's world, it's clear that young Jewish professionals can become so distant from Judaism in college. So when they leave, they don't have that natural connection back to our community. And YJLC exists so that we can support young Jewish professionals as they seek to engage with Israel and the greater Jewish community. But a fun story about why I'm involved with YJLC and how I met Lou is my aunt and uncle, who are both on the call right now, actually met at a YJLC ski trip, I guess 30 some years ago. And that's the reason I have two cousins now. So definitely a very personal connection to me. And I'm happy to be a part of it. Wave, Aunt Joe. But especially in today's world, with most things going remote, it's an ideal time for synagogues and Jewish organizations to engage young professionals like myself and Sophia. Young professionals lead very busy lives and chaotic lifestyles, but everything going on with COVID and through the use of technology, there's a very good way, or there's a very good opportunity to engage young professionals. So something that we're working on that we recently launched is called YJLC Core Team Pods. And what this program is we're trying to recruit 3 young professionals from different synagogues around the country through our different synagogue connections. And then through YJLC, we'll train them on how to recruit other young professionals within their communities to build these young professional networks at synagogues across the country. In addition, obviously, all the young professionals can attend the regional programming that we have, as well as the national programming and the twice-a-year Pocono and ski rafting trips. But yeah, it's an exciting time and a difficult time, but we view it as an opportunity to engage more young professionals, and we want to be there to help different synagogues around the country. But thanks again, Lou, for asking me and Sophia to chat today.
It's so great. Again, as with Sophia yourself, all of us can see that there's a great future because you guys have made the commitment and you're continuing it, and you're allowing us through YGLC to give you a foundation to meet your peers and make connections. Let me just take a moment to mention what we were planning to do this year before COVID would have been the 4th year of our 10-minute Rosh Hashanah meetup for young professionals, which we started 3 years ago with Synagogue Connect, and we're hoping to expand. So we have to always rethink and redo, but we invite the 20 organizations and 20 more organizations to join us in this effort of the most critical issue in the American Jewish community is to identify these dynamic young adults, those who get it, and allow them to be our representatives to their peers so we can engage them in the Jewish world and the Jewish future. So with that, I have some closing comments. Let's see. I want to thank all our special guests, Consul General Israel Nitzan, Rabbi Joe Potasnik, our wonderful rabbis, many of them are our national board members, all the tremendous people, our AFKMC staff who makes things happen in very, very difficult times. We have tremendous community leadership, like I see Bill Daroff and Heidi there. Thank you so much for being part of this. And I want to tell you that July 4th, 2021 will be the 40th anniversary of the Miracle at Entebbe in Philadelphia, as we did for the 40th anniversary, will be the 45th. And Bill Daroff, we invite you to have all your executive friends come to Philadelphia, and we'll invite this guy from Jerusalem who grew up here, who's personal friends of our national chair, Steve Friedman, last name's Netanyahu. And we'll have a big, big party in Philadelphia a little bit less than a year from now. We're working on that, and we want your help to help us make a tremendously successful program.
Lou, Hashem and COVID willing will be there.
Wonderful, beautiful. You just made my whole day. When I hear that from Bill Daroff, wow. Okay, and Dan Miriashin almost was on the call tonight, and lots of other friends. Richie Heidemann, we go back 40 years when I was B'nai B'rith Regional Director in Cincinnati. That's a whole different story. So we look forward to have an amazing program July 4th weekend here. October, I hope, either October or November, we'll do a special program at AEPI on the critical role it has had in leadership, training leadership on America's campuses. And Andy Borns hopefully will be guiding us, and he might have a special friend joining us as well. And a final word. Okay. To truly understand Israel, one must acknowledge the basis of its Jewish values and how at this moment we are seeing the Arab world beginning to embrace Israel. It's a tectonic change. My understanding of Israel is to know of the 80% Jewish population. Half are Jewish mothers or soon to be Jewish mothers. And what are the other half? The Jewish boys who want to please their mothers. What this means, any true path to peace will be totally and immediately embraced by Israel due to its underlying Jewish values. So I thank you again for joining us. For those who want to stay on a few more minutes, we're happy to continue the conversation more informally. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank you all for being part of this very, very special event together.
One thing, Lou?
Yes.
Today is Star Trek Day, so I'd like to wish you and everyone live long and prosper. And that's for the Daroffs.
And if you go to the YGLC website, you'll see the Spock story of where this comes from. It's on the www.yglc.org. And just to make mention, and pardon me, this is an event of American Friends of Kaplan Medical Center. And what we're doing is we're creating an awareness through issues that American Jews and American world supporting Israel finds important to get the word out about this hospital. It has 3 strategic values. I'll mention them very quickly. It's in the center of the country. 1 million Israelis, think of this, 11% of the population depends on this one hospital for its health sustenance. Number 2, when there's incidents of terrorism, or as our friends who were the supermarket hero who was stabbed, Niv Nehemiah, we learned that Rehovot's Kaplan is the premier place for trauma in Israel, not just in Israel, but around the whole European theater. So when there's missiles falling from Gaza, Israel depends on the center of the country being covered by Kaplan. And the third one we learned from Officer Netta, who was on one of our YGLC calls, is that 3 miles away from Kaplan Medical Center is State North Air Force Base. What does that mean? When Israel sends its international missions all over the world for healing, for saving lives, the doctors at Kaplan have to be ready 24/7. So those are 3 strategic values. Didn't know. Kaplan has best doctors as every other hospital, doing wonderful, wonderful work, but no one else has those 3 strategic values. Again, thank you so much, friends. We will end the formal part of this program, and I'll stay on for whoever wants to schmooze and talk as we go forward. Lana, great to see you.
All the best.
Hi, Lou. Feel good.
Thank you much. Thank you much.
Good to see you.
Great to see you.
Bye. Shana Tova. Keep me posted.
Adi, thank
See
you
you, Lou.
for all
Feel
that
better.
you do, all the support that you give.
You're welcome. Bye.
Jill, your daughter's looking at a cousin?
Hi, Sabrina. See you later, Lou. Feel better.
Thanks so much, Josh. Ina, so good to see you. I'm glad you're part of our regular Zooms.
We'll talk.
Lou, you look good.
Thank you. I lost
Hi,
20
Lou.
pounds. I don't
Not the ideal
advise
diet.
this diet for anyone, but I lost 20 pounds.
Yeah, you do look like you lost some weight. So just no.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I feel great. Jill, you and everyone else is sustenance for me. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. I will talk to you later this week.
Thank you. Thank you for
welcome.
helping put this together.
And Scott, you can close the registration.
Thank you. I would have forgotten. Thanks for reminding me.
And I
You're
put
welcome.
a list of the past 4 Zooms together. We have videos for most of them, so we can put that on one piece.
Yeah, if you can, probably the best thing, if you can send me the videos via WeTransfer, I can put them
I
up
have
on
the
the
link.
AFKMC. Okay, just send me
I
what
have
you
the YouTube
have.
links, yeah.
I'll put it all together.
I'm going to
put
see
it
if Johnson
yeah.
can do a graphic for them and try and make
I'll
some
do it.
sense of the stuff I put together.
I can do graphics.
No, no.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Good night.
So Andy,
Okay.
still on? Andy, any news for me? Thank you so much. Oh well.
Oh well. All right, Lou. I captured a bunch of screenshots of all of the speakers, I think. So I will send you a bunch of images, and I'll send you. Well, I'll hold on to the recording. If your recording doesn't work, then let me know.
It's
and,
so
I'll
important to
have a backup.
have a backup. And one of the things talked with David about is not just to have the recording of it as documentation, but also to do short splices of what happened and something that people actually will look at.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's work.
So yeah, definitely. Okay, I'm gonna stop my recording. I'll drop off. I'll send you what I have, and I'm gonna go turn off the registration for this one and wait for the next one.
Okay, thank you so much.
So, okay, no problem. Feel good.
Okay, thank you so much.
Talk to you later.
Everyone
All right,
else, anyone have any words for me? Any words for me? Andy, thank you for being there. I'm looking forward to setting up the next Zoom, hopefully with you, and hopefully with Ilham. All the best.